Yeah, and it doesn't feel as sharp, right?
Hmm.
Because what it's actually done is it's opened my eyes to be like, oh wow, yeah, like when I get triggered with X, this is how I feel, and this is sometimes how I respond, and that's not fair to anybody in this current state of
Hmm.
who I am as a person, because that response is to something that is absolutely not related to this current state, right? But it only comes when you deal with it in that way. So
Yeah.
that's my first piece of advice is hit the pause button and ask yourself why you're feeling that level of intensity. And welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another episode of the Unbreakable Podcast. How's it going, Josie?
Not too bad. It's warmed up. I got outside a little bit. Heard you did too. That nice fresh air. It's the end of the winter season.
Uh, it just yes, yes, and it's. I mean, I haven't even been in the winter as much, but it's just. I think I'm just ready for a little bit more daylight when I'm here, and yeah.
Some rain showers too. My favorite smell is rain.
Mhm.
I just want to bask in that right now.
Yes.
You came back to Canada in the wrong time though. You
Oh
flew.
Lord, it was so cold when I got here. But I don't get surprised by it. I mean, like it's Canada and it's February, and
Mhm.
so I mean, where I grew up, it was like this for weeks on end, and
Yeah.
so that's fine. The weather outside is weather.
Yes, exactly.
I can't do anything about it. Yeah, so no, we're back in the saddle, back home for a good couple of weeks, which is great. Happy to be home and just focused on all sorts of different new exciting things. Of course, we're going to start recording the audio book of
Hmm.
Unbreakable today.
Yes, I'm excited. I hear it in your voice when I read it. So it'll be nice for others to hear it while they're listening, that it's actually your voice. And you're doing the whole book
I
read by
am.
you
I
with
am.
some little mini stories at the end of
Yep.
each chapter.
We're gonna have some side quests.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Anyone who's
excited.
ever anyone who's ever sat through one of my workshops knows I'm the queen of side quests. There's always a point to something, but you got to stay with me. You got to stay with me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll kick that off today, and I mean we're publisher ready. Just a couple of final edits I'm going through one more time after you formatted it, and we'll have a couple more changes out of that because I'm picky and
That's fine. It was
gracefully hand that to
first,
you.
you know, pass at formatting, and Word is good for many things. It knows how to grind your gears, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I live inside of those programs. Yeah, so we're on the way to getting this book out to everybody. So really grateful for everybody hanging out with us here. And we won't spend too much time just burning time here. Let's get into some listener questions because we've received some through text message, email, direct messages on the board, on social
Website.
media, on the website. So uh, hit me. What's our first one? Let's get into it.
First one is, what advice would you give someone trying to start their own podcast?
Why would I feed my competition success metrics?
I
I'm
mean,
kidding.
there.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I think the first thing is just to do it, but you need to make sure that what you're doing is not, I think, an overextended area. Like I've podcasted, I think, for, I don't know, 4 years. And in those 4 years, it's like most people don't know who I am. I'm not gaining, I've never been paid or monetized. You guys could change that by subscribing, liking, and sharing.
That's right.
Don't forget to comment. Is that's what we're supposed to say there? So I think it's have a niche, have a purpose, have an audience, and give people what it is that they want. I think a lot of times podcasts are built out, and it's just people giving their opinions, and like people don't learn from that. Like your opinions,
Hmm.
like opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. It doesn't mean that everybody wants to see yours, right? And so just give some thought to what it is that you're putting out there and be realistic. If you want to really get into it and you want to make money off of it, measure it. Don't just throw spaghetti at a wall and see what's going to stick. Build a metric and work toward it. And if at all you want to be grossly successful, Josie Cable is always looking to hire new people. Like honestly, but I joke, but it's a joke, but it's not. It's having someone who understands the technology, has the time to build it and splice it and do it properly. If I would have tried to do this on my own, I would have shit the bed. It would have been bad.
I would have been okay.
Uh, you know, I No, I don't think so. I don't think I would be as consistent. I don't think that the brand would be as strong as it is. I don't think that the promotion would be as good as it is. I don't think that the growth would be there. I think I would just be having this little hobby off the side of my desk and I wouldn't actually be doing it service, right? Like
Uh,
you're a force multiplier for me and like that
oh, the
matters.
cattle prod, Kate.
Yeah, okay,
Cattle
cool.
prod.
Call it what you will. Call it what you will. But yeah, so have the time you can dedicate to do it right. Have the topic that people are hungry for, and then have the absolute resilience and the tenacity to chase it relentlessly. Because if you
Mhm.
don't, it will fail.
Yeah. And it doesn't take much to fail it. Everyone is always gung ho right away, but like you said, if you don't have a plan in action, we had a base plan. We knew what our stories were going to be. We knew the guests that we wanted on there. And even when it comes down to our banter, yes, we are sitting here having our conversations back and forth, but they're real conversations. They're not super scripted. But there's something to take away from every one of them. And I'm not saying you
Absolutely.
can't banter with other people, the person that asked this question, but just make sure it's authentic too. People are going to know if you're reading from a script that ChatGPT, ended up putting out for you and you are constantly looking at a screen. Just be real. Do the thing.
I'm sorry, is that a thing? Like that's a thing?
Yeah, yeah. I come across a few on YouTube now that I'm like, okay, I can see you looking at your
Oh,
screen. And I mean, teleprompters, yeah, they can be a thing. But I also know ChatGPT's language. So
yeah.
at least change it up a little bit. Use your own words, but
That's
reading
weird.
directly off a script, nah. Get some
Wow.
ideas and roll with it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean I think that just screams to me a lack of insight.
Yeah,
I mean, you want to be consuming information from socially and emotionally intelligent people. Guys, garbage in, garbage out, right? Like it's
exactly.
like it's junk food if it's, not to say that somebody who's scripting themselves, I mean, I guess like if you think about it in the context of what it is that they're doing. I mean, I remember early days, I would like literally script it out. I bought myself it was a really random buy, very random. So my parents one year they gave me a $50 Amazon gift card, my stocking, and I'm like, what
Hell
am I going
yeah.
to use this for? And everyone's like, well, you're not allowed to buy cleaning supplies or like whatever with it. And I was like, and at that time I was not buying my protein off of there. And so I saw this sale and like they're see-through sticky notes. Like they're transparent. And so I use these, and what I would do is I would think about what I wanted to say, but I wanted to be eloquent because I was super nervous when I first started. And this was before we had Riverside. And so I
Right.
would write out my thought as nicely as possible, and I would
And
stick
stick
it
them
over
on
the
the
phone
screen.
case. I would stick it on my phone screen so that I could see myself and my reaction, and that I'm like, I'm developing really good content, right, guys? Um, so
Hey,
this
I
is
mean,
the
it
fear
works,
that
right?
you, this is the fear, like this is my problem solving in making content. So like I get it, but
Mhm.
like evolve. You've got to evolve. Like I don't have these stuck on my screen anymore, right? But hey,
I mean, you're becoming a pro at it now. So
wow.
that's actually a really great thing to have, though. I have literally a pile of sticky notes, but they're not see through.
Those are cool. And
Yeah.
it
Oh.
was a great use of my $50 gift card from Amazon. That was like 500 years old. Anyways,
Well, it's just to make your own teleprompter at that point.
correct. You
Yeah.
don't know
Huh?
what you're ever going to need a clear sticky note. You didn't know you
True.
needed one until you needed one, right?
No,
So,
no. Awesome.
all right. Okay,
That's
so hit
pretty
me with
much
the
all I
next
got
one.
for that one.
Yeah, me too. All right.
Individuals tend to set timelines in achieving their goals. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, plans were foiled. This leads to emotional turmoil. How will you recover while your emotions are at peak? Can you please share your own version of it, should there be any? That was
Oh,
very
I'm
nicely
glad.
worded, by the way.
Yes, yes. Thank you for the question. This is coming from one of my personal contacts, someone who I mentor, and I love this question because I think it speaks to a couple of different things, right? So we're setting timelines on ourselves. Things knock us off kilter. We're feeling emotional about it because things aren't going as we wanted them to. How do we manage that and continue to progress? Is really what I'm getting out of that.
Yeah.
Um, so in this case, I think that having a timeline is not a bad thing. But I always come back to one of my first bodybuilding coaches who really took me to kind of a new way of thinking and behaving, and you know, really introduced me, I think, to metacognition. And I think this is something that it's becoming more and more profound. People are thinking about it even
Hmm.
more. They're talking about it more. And so we've touched on it a little bit in the past. Metacognition is the practice of removing yourself out of your thoughts to examine why you're thinking how you're thinking. Like, so this is
Hmm.
like the process of thinking about thinking, right? So the reason I bring this up is because I think that there is power in stepping back and examining and saying, okay, why do I feel this sense of urgency? Okay, well, maybe I'm feeling a sense of urgency because let's relate it to somebody who's looking for a job. And the sense of urgency is I need to pay my rent, or I need to pay
Put food in my
all
belly.
my bills, right?
Yeah.
It could be that I feel like I'm ready to kind of come to the next level of my career and there's a growth opportunity in front of me. It could be maybe that I'm in a toxic work environment that's psychologically unsafe. Like the sense of urgency around it matters. And
Hmm.
then the next step is to look at how you can remove the urgency so that it doesn't feel like a threat to you, because we become very emotional when things don't go the way we think they should. Having expectations is a dangerous thing, right? When we
Hmm.
have goals, there are milestones that we can plan for. So setting a milestone that says, if I want to find a new job and grow in my career, what's the pathway to getting there? And so is it additional education? Is it a workshop? Is it a LinkedIn certification? Is it networking? Is it time,
Hmm.
right? Our sense of urgency, sometimes we feel like we're not keeping up with the people around us. Social media has done us no good service in that space because nobody
Comparison
is like,
is
yeah,
also the biggest killer out there. You do
that's
not
exactly
need to
right.
compare to others. And that
Exactly.
it's freeing to not compare to others. Everyone's path is different. Everyone's emotions are different. We all react to things differently because of what we went through, good or bad. So comparing to the person you see on social media or that friend that you went to school with that's super successful and the white picket fence life, stop comparing.
Absolutely. And instead of comparing, take the time that you would spend and the energy there and think about why you think that way and why you feel that way. And I know that sounds kind of like hippy dippy kind of nonsense, but what it does is it allows you to look at where the fracture in your resilience is, right? Why are you
Hmm.
having that fear based response? It's so interesting because as we go back and I'm editing through the book, it's like I'm picking at these old wounds for like the 18th time. Like my therapist called this the ultimate journaling
Oh,
exercise,
yeah.
right? And so I go back and it just it's never easier, but it doesn't feel as like,
Daunting almost.
yeah, and it doesn't feel as sharp, right?
Hmm.
Because what it's actually done is it's like it's opened my eyes to be like, oh wow, yeah, like when I get triggered with X, this is how I feel, and this is sometimes how I respond, and that's not fair to anybody in this current state of
Hmm.
who I am as a person, because that response is to something that is absolutely not related to this current state, right? But it only comes when you deal with it in that way. So
Yeah.
that's my first piece of advice is hit the pause button and ask yourself why you're feeling that level of intensity. And then the next thing is to then say, okay, I'm feeling this level of intensity because, and I want this. To get
Hmm.
to this, okay, what do I always say? Action kills anxiety. So if you're feeling angst and like like, I got to get this done now, and this is where I want to be. Start doing things to get there,
Hmm.
and be realistic with your expectations, though, right? Like in the certain circumstances, like the one that I know that this individual is going through, it is about patience. It is all about patience. It's about doing the right things and keeping your name in people's mouths in a positive way and showing up and doing the things and just being consistent, because that pays off. Time
Hmm.
is a lot of the time what needs to happen.
I think that's why I'm such a patient person. I get commended all the time. They don't understand how I'm so patient. I don't even get road rage. Okay. On the occasional time I get road rage, but it's very internal. But it's my patience. I could wait for days if I need to wait for days to get to where I'm going, or to do the thing, or for something else to come up. I don't know. Patience is very underrated in a lot of people. And I
I
think
agree.
this day and age, it's so fast. Everything has to happen so fast. And if it doesn't happen fast, it's not going to happen in people's minds. Yeah. I'm like, okay, just wait. Just breathe through it first. Then you'll get there. But you can't tell impatient people that. So
You can't just be like, just be patient.
yeah,
It'll
just wait.
come. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. Yeah, you know what? That is such a Nova Scotia East Coast attitude, though. Like the
Just
farther
sit
you
back
go,
and relax,
to,
bud. It'll get
it's
there.
fine. It'll be
It's
fine.
fine.
You
Yeah.
know? Oh, it's yeah. And then as far as like, so coming to that patience is letting go of the things that you can't control, controlling the controllables. It's a big thing. The second thing to this, of course, is how do you regulate those emotions and how do you find that space? Because I'm not always great at that. I always say that I'm patiently impatient because I can handle it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm not like you where I'm like, yeah, I'll just, okay, it'll happen when it happens. Like I've had to
Very
work.
internal though. Like
Yeah,
if I'm not moving around and doing something, my lack of patience will show. In my
yeah,
mind, I'm like, okay, I can calm it down in there, but this this needs to move, because if one of them isn't moving, I go crazy. So
yeah.
it's either I'm sitting there silently, but I'm thinking of a million things in my head. That's probably also ADHD. Uh, or if my body's moving, my mind is calm. So it's a teeter totter effect. I don't get both. I get one at a time.
Yeah.
Uh, but I had to learn that. Like to be patient in one area, I have to be moving in another, instead of I'm frantic in here, but I'm frantic on the outside too. I
Mhm.
had to learn to calm at least one of those so that the other one can kind of work in tandem. Again, a skill that's taking yourself outside of that box and kind of looking into why I'm feeling this emotion, or why I'm doing this, or why the hell am I angry at, because it didn't go my way. It's taking yourself outside of that and just being like, oh, if I wrote a book on Unbreakable, or like Unbreakable, and listed out the things that have happened in my past life, I'd be like, yeah, okay, all of this makes sense now. I understand why I get
Absolutely.
angry for this, or upset because, say, I didn't land the job that I wanted or the contract I wanted. But if you're missing that through your life, where you had to grasp and grasp and grasp and grasp, patience wears thin after a while. But
Absolutely. Well, and
like
that's
you said,
but that's the thing, right? Is that you will be you will rise to the occasion based off of the circumstances you were raised in. And the
mhm,
best way to overcome that or to enhance that is to continue to work it, is to continue to get up. I mean, what's that old saying? Is fall down seven, get up eight. And it's 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 one of those things where it takes grit to grow
yeah,
and to, like, I remember when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, man, I just could not wait to grow up. I was like, come on, let's go. Let's go.
I
Like
hated that line from
oh,
adults at that time. Don't wish your life away. You don't want to be an adult. And I'm like, what do you know?
yeah,
And
I
now
do.
I'm, yeah,
But the other
35.
thing
I'm
is
like,
that
shit. Why'd I do that?
Well, and the other thing too, though, is that I think we're also trying to live according to other people's standard of what
Hmm.
living should be, right? And so I remember having this conversation with my daughter when she was like 19, and she was like, "I'm far behind my peers, I'm failing in life," and I'm like, "Settle in. Like, you're working a great job, you're able to save your money, you're able to basically live for free. Like, you pay for your groceries and your phone and your car insurance. Like, stop. You're fine. Because I can tell you that there are friends who have gone out and they've gotten married and they've had babies, but that was good for them.
Yeah. And that's
I
their timeline,
I
not
was
theirs.
very young when I did that, and I played this life where I was like, I'm just going to be a Stepford wife. And I remember this one time my ex-husband was coming home from work, and I had like these I had this meal pulled together, and I was like, look at me, I'm in like this filthy old trailer with mildew floors. um it was a shithole. And I'm making this dinner, and I'm like, he's just gonna be so happy. There's some like frozen vegetables in the pot over there, and I'm making my boxed mashed potatoes that only cost me $2 at Walmart over here, and I got my
Betty
little
Crocketing
fillets
it
of
up.
I oh yeah, and I got my little salmon fillets. I got four for $8, and so I've got that in the oven, and we're gonna have these cheese. Like, it was just, and I look back at that now, and I'm like, it's just so inauthentic to who I actually am at the core of who I am. It's not that, I mean, like, just everything about that was not me. And it was because I was in this rush to do life in the way that I thought I was supposed to do life.
Hmm.
And so, just my greatest advice is examine why you're thinking the way you think, catch those thoughts and release them. Don't compare yourselves to other people. And at the end of the day, build a plan, because action kills anxiety. Go out and take what you want. You know, I tell you, a river cut through rock because it was just some
Hmm.
water that just one
Kept
drop
going.
after the next, right?
Hmm.
All right. I like it.
That was a good one. I guess the next one kind of goes hand in hand. How do you know when it's time to stay and grow versus leave and explore better opportunities?
That's a great question. I think it depends on context. Obviously, all of this does. I just spilled water down my face while you looked away.
I saw that.
For everybody, oh, you're very classy. I'm glad you didn't mention it, because everybody on the live stream, I'm kidding, we're not on a live stream, but everybody who's watching this was like, "Huh, you have a hole in your lip? Is your first time drinking?" Okay,
I
guys,
got
all
that one a
right.
lot with the lip rings. I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
it's
water
like,
doesn't actually come out of them.
uh, have you ever tried? I mean,
Yes, I have.
oh,
I got
okay, well.
ADHD, Kate. Of course I've tried.
Well, maybe try harder. Anyways, I digress. Um, so, I think it's just a feeling. It's one of those things. When things have tapped out,
Mhm.
right? The body language of your peers that tells you, the quality of opportunities tells you, the passion that you have tells you. Like, if you wake up and it's the Sunday scaries every single week, I
It's
mean,
time to change.
it's time to make a change, right?
Hmm.
I don't experience that at all. On Sundays, I'm like, my biggest thing is like, oh, I got to go to bed by 9, 10.
Right.
So that's my only limitation, is I only have 12 hours or 15 hours to play in this beautiful day. Like, that's my biggest concern on a Sunday,
Mhm.
you know? So when it comes down to it, I think it's like it. You don't know what it is. When somebody has it, they
Mhm.
have it. And I think everybody can relate to that. When it's time to go and pursue other opportunities, when that is too. And so, again, like, kind of like what we talked about in the last question, is you need to just create a plan. Don't do anything without a plan. And the plan may change. It may have to pivot.
Mhm.
Um, but just create a plan and start ticking away at it.
I'm
Take
going to
what you
add
want.
to that though. Probably coming from like a people pleasing perspective, but I know you
Could
do
be.
talk about this in Unbreakable. It will probably come up because it's coming out pretty soon. What about when you feel like you kind of owe it to, say you've been there 15 years or whatever, but you don't want to let them down? You know you don't enjoy your job. You know you're not excited about Monday mornings anymore, but you don't want to hurt the people that you're leaving. What would you suggest?
Well, I would suggest that I've probably hurt a lot of people in the past because I've not chosen to live my life for other people. I've, and that sounds harsh. I know it does, but I have a story in Unbreakable where I talk about leaving a job, and it was a job that I loved. Like I loved what I was doing, and I became an exception to my own practice. It was during a restructure, and I wasn't consulted or treated in a way that I felt was very well respected. And I was very young. I think I was about 28, 29.
Yeah, I think 27 or 28 maybe is what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember anyways.
yeah. And I ended up actually, I made the decision to leave. Um, and was the timing right? No. Did I explore the conflict enough? No. Was I hurt? Yes. But did I still do what I thought I needed to do? And I did. And I lost a person who I really respected. It was a leader that I'd worked with. And I sincerely enjoyed him, and I missed being able to spend time with him. What was interesting was we had done lunch once afterwards, and we'd had a coffee. Um, I messaged him on LinkedIn every year on his birthday or the holidays or like one of those things, and wished him and his family well. And it wasn't until I moved into the role that I'm in now where he even acknowledged my existence. And what's really interesting about that story, though, is I was not the only young leader who had left his area of the organization, and the other young leaders that I knew um, also did not receive any contact from him. So I think it
Mm,
was just like it was. I mean, we were a really, really, really good team, and when we did this restructure, unfortunately, a couple of the really high potential leaders were the casualties of it. Um,
right.
but it was a choice. For both of us, it was a choice, and and that was really hard. And I don't regret making the decision that I made. I regret how I did it.
Mm,
And that was just because I was young and it was a lack of insight. And it wasn't because I was immoral or I was being inconsiderate. I mean, obviously I was being inconsiderate, but I wasn't able to see around corners right
it
at
was an
that point.
intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. Intent is a huge piece. Like, I mean, I was at leadership meetings last week and we talked about that, and it was the intent. Like, I wake up every single day with the intent to exploit opportunity and avoid hazard. I just want to make a buck and not get hit by a bus while I do it. And hopefully, through that, be able to make my company successful, allow my team members to feel valued and like get to work on really exciting stuff, for my family to feel loved and respected, and for myself to be able to put my head down on the pillow at night knowing that I served, lived my love language, but also that I gave to myself, that I watered
Totally.
my own plant, right? And so when I think about moving on, when I think about growth, when I think about how scary it can be, I've done it a lot, a lot. Like there's so many versions of who I am, and I love each one of them equally because
Hmm.
in that moment she was doing her best. Um,
Yeah.
but you don't grow if you're in a pot that's too small.
Yeah.
You don't grow if you're in a pot that has no soil. You don't grow if you're not nurtured, if you're not
Hmm.
given the pathways to grow. And in a lot of instances, being that I've been self-employed for, 15 of the past 16 and a half years, um, I know how to nurture and I know how to care for myself. Now, it's not always a good thing because being in a team means you do need to rely, but being self-sufficient is not a bad thing either.
Good answers. Damn.
Crazy. I love those questions. Those were really good questions. I think we had one on our Instagram thread
Mm,
about
yes.
this one was about nutrition, I believe.
Food noise.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you
I'm
would
just gonna.
remember.
Okay. I only remember because when it was brought up, I totally thought that she was talking about the sound when people are eating food. And for me, I could jump off my balcony or in front of a car by hearing someone chew. So I thought it was a hey, let me know your mental strategies of how you get through that without wanting to shove that person's face into the wall. I don't
It
know the
sounds like
answer to
you're
this one. I have no
you know
answer for this one.
you know this one is a challenge for me as well in our household. It's I feel so bad for Erin because it's like she'll eat a chip and both Ruth and I are like right like we just
Okay,
turn
I'm the
into like
same
these
way. Brittany's just
oh
like,
it's like
I'll try to
yeah
silently eat it. Sorry.
I'm like, it's
I'm
not
like,
your fault. Just eat your chips. It's fine.
well, that's what I need to
Well,
tell myself.
so just I mean, my tips are first and foremost, turn some noise on. Always have some noise on when somebody's eating the things or drinking the soup or
I
whatever.
have my
Yep.
headphones with me. Yeah,
I I actually have a pair of loop AirPods or earbuds, and
they're
they're
the best.
little tiny guys like that. And I think I paid $20 for them on Amazon. I can be on an airplane. I can be like because sometimes you're sleeping on an airplane or somebody sitting behind you. This is why I don't go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to the
I get
movies
a big
because
enough TV. I
I
do
don't
it at
need to
home.
listen to people eat. That's what I say to my
Yeah.
family. Let's go to the movies. No, I don't need to listen to people eat.
Okay, I found the
That being
question.
said, that being said, I don't feel like that's the food noise we're talking about.
No, no. Now I know that. But for the people out there that can't stand food noise, we're with you on this.
Yes,
I
solidarity.
still love my partner, but I think I make her a little bit anxious when, especially chips and popcorn come out, and I'm just like, I'll lean
Yeah.
over a little bit more and give myself some more airspace in
Yep.
here so I don't hear it.
I feel that
Even though she doesn't
100%.
actually chew loud, it's just a sound that does something in there. But for the actual question, how to fight food noise, both for those who suffer with it chronically and for those who experience it once in a while. Now, you can give the definition of what she meant by food noise.
Yes. So thanks for this question. This question is thinking about food, how we see ourselves with food, our behaviors with food, and how to kind of tap the brakes. And so, as basically, a hobbyist in the dieting world, I eat a lot and then I eat very little for long periods of time. I'm joking. I jest. Bodybuilding is an extreme sport, and we behave very extremely inside of bodybuilding. And so, some days you're eating 3,800 calories, yay me. And sometimes, depending on what your goals are, you're only eating 1,500. So that's a pretty big swing, right? And when it comes to dieting, I also think back to like when I first started. So for those who don't know or who are just joining us, I used to be 260 pounds, and just I'll give you a picture to put a post production. And this is the picture that I saw of myself. I was 25 years old, and I thought I was hiding behind this black clothing that I was wearing. And I saw this picture. It was at Niagara Falls. I was there on a family vacation when my daughter was quite young. I saw this picture and I went, "Oh my gosh, it looks like I'm running around with uncooked bread in my pants." And I genuinely was shocked. And so I went and I slammed my calories down. Like I thought, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate high school if I'm not careful. And so um, I found my calories down to 1,200, and I was writing in these little journals and little books. They were so bad, and even just how I was logging and documenting was so not adequate. But it
It
was
was a
more than what I
start.
had been doing before. Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
And so I dealt with a lot of food noise at that point. And so what I would do is I would work in a cheat meal once a week. So it would be, McDonald's with my friend at lunch on Friday, or, pizza with my ex-husband and daughter on Saturday. Um, but then I would work out and do the things, right? So I say all of that to say that, I've done it in instances where it was just pure sheer determination and bullheadedness, and I didn't allow myself to obsess or think about it. But then I also wasn't very disciplined. Like when I look back at those journals now as a highly structured competitive athlete, I see the comfort that I was still providing to myself, but it wasn't about being militant the way that I am with my diet now. It was about being better than I had been and not having the extra large mocha for breakfast with a bagel and cream cheese, right? I mean, like that's 1,000 calories right there.
Yeah.
right?
Tim Hortons ice caps, I didn't know, are almost 600 calories for a large.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yes. And it's pure fat, right? So you look at what
Mm-hmm.
it's doing and what it's putting into your body and how it's stressing your system out. So the first thing is it's just diligence. It's not allowing those thoughts to overtake. It's recognizing that discomfort is uncomfortable and it makes our brain react in a certain way. And so if we sit and we think about the food and the things we're not eating and the things that we wish we could have, and looking up recipes of foods we know aren't agreeable with how we choose to live our lives, then what we're doing is we're just feeding that inferno of cortisol. And we're saying, look at the deprivation, look at what you're having.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's removing things from the environment that aren't moving towards the goals that you want. So if you love chocolate cake and you're not having chocolate cake because you're trying to, lose 5 pounds for somebody's wedding, don't scroll chocolate cake recipes. Don't go to
Yeah.
Pinterest boards. Don't look at your friend's baking page. Just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Just like be done with it. The other piece is to move, right? The
Yes.
reason the reason Unbreakable was born was because I needed a prep project. Did it get me up moving? No, it didn't get me up moving, but I did do a lot while I was walking. While I did cardio, actually, I did a lot of my writing and my editing and a lot of social media planning and just like I did a lot around this. So I wasn't scrolling social media and I was focused on something that was productive that I was learning through. And so, like when Dr. Scott taught me about this, he himself would go and build vehicles, right? Other people I know have taken up reading X number of books. Other people have done, like, I did meditation 1 year. But what I didn't do was sit and just think about deprivation. The language I use is not, I can't have that. It's, I choose not to have that, right? And those sound really, really small. But what they do is they fill the narrative and it teaches your mind to focus on what you want and not what you don't want. It takes you out of scarcity and deprivation and puts you into empowerment and choice because you can have those things. You could go have them at any point you want. You could serve that food noise, you just will not meet your goals. And so when we get to this point where you're starting to feel that food noise and you have those temptations, this is where you double down and you dig in hard, you drink more water, you maybe space your meals a little closer together. Maybe you go to bed a little earlier, maybe you wake up a little later, maybe you go for an extra walk in the day. Whatever it does, just whatever you do, just make the decision to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. The reticular
Right.
activating system loves that shit, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know the good from bad.
No, it doesn't. Because on the flip side of all of that, I suffer with it and not as much, but I would go to the extreme because I was also, pushing 250 pounds at one time. I grew up in a family that lived off diet pills and
Mm,
starvation to
yeah.
lose weight, which is one of the biggest ways to gain weight is starvation. But through the years, I got myself so used to that that I'm like, oh, I went 3 weeks no eating. I still drank water, obviously, still here. Don't recommend anybody to do that, but my days go by. It'll be 4, 5 p.m. sometimes. And I'm like, I didn't eat today. So I went to the extreme on that part. And wasn't even an intentional thing at the time. But instead of telling myself, hey, I can have that, or I choose not to have that, and I'll have this instead, it was just, no, you get nothing. So watching that fine line of don't deprive yourself so much where you do actually end up training your body thinking that you don't need it anymore. And I weight train, I play football, and whatever else comes across that's, an active thing to do. But I was depriving my body so much because I would go and I'd play football and I would train 3 days a week just at football. And then those
Hmm.
other 2, 3 days, I'm at a gym. But I was not giving myself the nutrition because for 20 years, we'll say, of my life, it was okay, well, just don't eat. You'll stay fit, you'll stay active, you'll lose the weight, you'll whatever if you just don't eat. And mentally, I know you need, at least 1,200 calories a day usually just to function as a human.
Mhm.
And then from there, you just kind of work down, knocking 100 calories off a day. The next day, knock another 100. Like, you don't have to go big to the other side of where I got stuck.
Mhm.
It's a work in progress with me, but it's what you said earlier, giving yourself a choice instead of a, brick wall comes down, don't even
Yeah.
think about it, don't look at it. Really think of the choices you have instead of, you know, putting that wall there and being like, don't even think about it. Don't even like have it anywhere near you, which if it's in your environment as a, recover or someone in recovery too, if it's in your environment, it is still in your mind.
Mhm.
So removing that, but not completely, taking everything away from yourself. Just balance on the fine line.
Yeah,
Our
no
bodies
doubt.
need
I think
nutrition. So,
yeah. So, friend of the show, Alicia XL, let's make sure we give her a shout out here. w- I wrote something on her a post that she had a couple of days ago, and it was a really vulnerable post talking about like behaviors with food and how people sometimes just use food to deal with shitty emotions because that's just how they cope. And I just said like, I've never ever seen she was a size 4 written on somebody's tomb.
yeah,
And so when you look at the context of this rat race that we're in, to look a certain way, to show up a certain way, to behave a certain way, to think a certain way, like it's exhausting because at the end of the day, like you die and what's left behind of this turmoil and this struggle and this like this
exactly.
power play it's your legacy of what you choose to leave behind. And so it's like when I think about this prep project and Unbreakable and putting it into context of why I wrote it because I had the opportunity. I wrote it because people had been asking me to write a book, um, and I'm leaving something behind. Like, do I think that it's going to change a bazillion lives? Well, maybe it could. I don't know. But do I think that it's the possibility of changing one life? Has it maybe
Hmm.
potentially already changed one life? Um, you know, this is legacy, and I know that when I interact with people, people are impressed by the physique that I have. That is not a question,
Yeah,
right? But that's
rightfully
something
so.
for me. I don't do it for other people. I do it because I like the meditation inside of bodybuilding. I like the discomfort inside of
Hmm.
deprivation. I enjoy the pressure that this brings to me because it's almost like a meditative outlet. Last week, the gym was a sanctuary. This past weekend, my training sessions were some of the best I have had in months. And it's because I had all of this pent up, just like energy from needing to be in my own space and doing my own thing. And, you know, so the food noise, let it be what it'll be, but don't feed into it.
Hmm.
Don't feed the food noise. Find something else to do. Redirect your thoughts. Go for a walk. Uh,
Pick up a book.
write, pick up a book. Write a song, a limerick. Go, play a game of Yahtzee with your kids. Like, I mean, there are so many different things to do in this life than stress over the things that we can't control. I know we can control our mindset. I know we can control our food noise. But at the end of the day, the reason behind it is why. Why is that
Hmm.
food noise in there? Again, come back out, go into that metacognition and put yourself into the thought of thinking about why you think the way you do. And when you do that, man, you decode yourself really, really easy. And it's glorious.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling when you actually understand why you do
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, yeah, but it takes time and it takes effort and it's really uncomfortable. And, you know, the one thing that I will say is that the things that I've written about in Unbreakable and the tips and the tools that I've put in Unbreakable, this is not just a book that you read. It is literally a guide to change your life. It is
Hmm.
taking your story and turning it into strength and taking that strength and putting you on the path to living the life you want to live. That is amazing. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Speaking of mics, I'm getting new mics for podcasting. Yay! So they'll arrive whenever they arrive. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone's in Newfoundland, someone's in Quebec. It'll get here when it gets here.
Good luck with the East Coast.
I
I
know,
send
the
mail
news.
back to my family, and it's like, oh yeah, it'll take about 3 weeks. I'm like, but I paid for express. And my family will send me stuff, and they're like, yeah, I sent you a card 3 weeks ago. Did you get it? And I'm like, mm, yeah, no, it'll come when it comes.
It'll get here when it gets here. Yeah. So, well, everybody send good vibes. We're waiting on our ISBNs. Once we have our ISBNs, we can start
Yes,
doing all the things, and we start recording Unbreakable today for you audiobook listeners. We know that there's a lot of you. I am you. It me.
I am not
Um,
you.
oh, I love an audible. Um, but yeah, so let's mush on. Let's get after it. And remember, protect your peace, chase your dreams, and stay unbreakable.